Palpatine's masterstroke is enacted and sends out a mass transmission to all the clone troopers. Execute Order 66. It's gonna be really awkward when there's one clone trooper battalion that has bad reception, mishears what Palpatine says, and just replies to him, "Nice." And indeed, the clone troopers turn on the Jedi wherever they are, murdering them throughout the galaxy. It's not a bad sequence at all, but this is also why I kinda wish Anakin had become Darth Vader at the end of Episode 2. I'm not such a stickler for continuity about this, but Obi-Wan said in A New Hope that Vader helped hunt down and destroy the Jedi, implying that he was actively going after them across the galaxy, like a space slasher movie where Vader killed them from the shadows or something. I remember long before an actual trailer for Episode 3 came out, I saw a fan-made Lego one where some dark force was killing Jedi in secret, and I liked that idea. Again, Order 66 is fine, no objection to it. I just think that would have been an interesting idea. The comic actually shows more of it than the movie did, a lot more Jedi getting blasted, and instead of Yoda decapitating the two troopers who were going to kill him, it's him, Chewbacca, and some other Wookiee having a close-range fight against them. Oh yeah, Chewbacca's in this movie too because fan service. And again, two characters who previously had no connection whatsoever, Yoda and Chewbacca, know each other now because the Force likes making bizarre coincidences. Back on Coruscant, Senator Organa witnesses the clone troopers attack the Jedi Temple, them even taking some pot shots at him, but ultimately let him get away because he's not a Jedi. Anakin stops by to see Padme and inform her that the Jedi just tried to stage a coup, much to her disbelief. He even mentions traitors in the Senate trying to take advantage of this situation, so I'm guessing Palpatine is having himself a little Night of the Long Knives for any of his potential political opponents. He informs Padme that he's going to Mustafar to deal with the Separatist leadership. The comic leaves out the scene of him killing the kids at the temple, and I am of two minds about this. On one hand, in the movie, it's pretty ballsy in an all-ages franchise to actually show him murder kids, and it really does illustrate that there's no going back for him. Bear in mind, Vader's redemption only comes at the cost of his own life. There is no reasonable scenario where he turns to the light earlier and is walking around in white armor or something. Yes, I know that happens in a comic. But at the same time, like I rambled about before, he kind of went from conflicted about the Jedi and the Chancellor to I will slice innocent children in half without even the rage of my mom dying as an excuse in 15 minutes. So not showing that seems like a smarter move narratively. Senator Organa manages to acquire a Jedi homing beacon and heads out into space to try to find any surviving Jedi and protect them before they walk into the massacre. He meets up with Obi-Wan and Yoda, both of whom escaped from their attacks. How many more Jedi managed to survive? We've heard from none. We can only hope that some have managed to escape to the expanded universe. The Jedi Temple is emitting a coded retreat signal to all Jedi, a trap to lure them back to be killed, so our heroes elect to head there to disable the signal. While Anakin arrives on Mustafar and starts killing the Separatist leaders, who have also disabled their droid armies per Sidious's orders, though I wonder why he didn't elect to just keep the droid army and claim that they were taken from the Separatists, the Senate meets for Palpatine's speech. He claims the Jedi attacked him and attempted to seize power, but now that their attempted insurrection is over and the Separatists are defeated, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire to be ruled by the Senate and a sovereign ruler chosen for life. And everyone seems pretty okay with this for some reason. But then again, they kept granting him new authorities, so this is just formalizing it all. So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. Okay, that's actually a great line. Kudos, Lucas. Organa doesn't want this to happen, but Padme says they can't do anything now. But there will be a time in the future, again hinting at the rebellion. At the Jedi Temple, Obi-Wan has reconfigured the signal to warn the Jedi away. And while I don't really follow Rebels or Clone Wars, yeah, I know they're supposed to be good, I'm just not interested. I do recommend looking up Obi-Wan's message, because it's actually pretty damn good. Would have been a great way to end the movie, honestly. Though, of course, it wasn't written at that point, so what you gonna do? Anyway, Obi-Wan decides to dig deeper and finds hologram recordings of the attack on the temple, including how Anakin helped kill everyone there. Also, apparently Sidious stopped by so he could announce that his name is Darth Vader now. Obi-Wan wants to be sent to go kill the Emperor, since he can't bring himself to kill Anakin. Oh yeah, that'll help the Jedi's image at this point. But Yoda says he's not powerful enough to take someone like that on. He's not wrong, given how easily Sidious walked through the Force sent after him, Though why not just both go together? Best case scenario, I think they assume they have to kill both at once, or the other will escape justice. But it's not like the Emperor will go anywhere, especially after he's finally executed his endgame. Kill Anakin first, then go after the Emperor together. Anyway, Obi-Wan goes to Padme first so they can compare notes. Padme disbelieving that Anakin would turn to the dark side or kill kids like in the recordings. Obi-Wan recognizes that Anakin's the father of her children and apologizes to her. She goes off to take a ship to Mustafar, Obi-Wan secretly stowing away to follow. Yoda heads to the Chancellor's office at the Senate to confront Palpatine. Master Yoda, you survived. Surprised? Not really. I mean, you had Wookiees on your side. While they begin their fight, Padme arrives on Mustafar and meets with Anakin. Obi-Wan told me terrible things. He said you've turned to the dark side? That you killed... Obi-Wan was with... Yeah! Again with the weird Anakin face! Jeez, this is why they had everyone give such a low-key acting in these movies. When you transcribe emotionality to art like this, you get that. Anyway, Anakin claims that Obi-Wan is just trying to turn her against him and that he's super duper powerful. I don't want your power or your protection. Anakin, all I want is your love. Love won't save you. Only my new powers can do that. What new powers? For God's sakes, can we have something that shows Anakin has gotten more powerful? I mean, even Dooku could shoot lightning, but Vader never does. Or does more power just mean I can do somersaults in the air better? We don't have to hide anymore. I have brought peace to the Republic. I am more powerful than the Chancellor. I can overthrow him. And together, you and I can rule the galaxy, make things the way we want them to be. He's been on the dark side for like an hour, and already he's talking about killing Palpatine. I don't think the rule of two thing is working out as well as hoped, honestly. I don't believe what I'm hearing. Obi-Wan was right. Look, honey, I don't know if you've noticed, but it has been a crazy day. Could we please talk about this later? Anakin rants some more. I don't want to hear any more about Obi-Wan. The Jedi turned against me. The Republic turned against me. Don't you turn against me.
Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
He spots Obi-Wan emerging from the ship and assumes she brought him, and thus indeed betrayed him, and starts force choking her. Yep, trapped alone with a creepy guy who can choke me with his mind. This is what I was afraid of back on Naboo. Called it. He shoves her into a wall with the Force, which honestly makes a lot more sense for killing her than just choking her for a few seconds. You turned her against me!
Is this the human condition of madness, leader? It is.
You did that yourself! I love how Obi-Wan's attitude in the scene can be summed up as, Dude, I left you alone for 5 minutes! I have brought peace and security to my new empire! Your new empire? My allegiance is to the Republic, Anakin! If you are not with me, then you are my enemy! And they cross sabers. What, no, only a Sith deals in absolutes? Almost like that was a really stupid line, and it was good to be cut. Back over to the fight between Sidious and Yoda. You will not stop me. Darth Vader will become more powerful than either of us. It's such a weird statement. Why would he want Vader to become more powerful than him? And he doesn't! He just picks Sidious up and tosses him down a hole. Any reasonably fit person could do that, you wrinkly old weirdo. These movies are so obsessed with trying to convince the audience how super amazingly awesome and powerful Darth Vader is. A prophecy, constant proclamations about how strong he is. And even the guy who manipulated things for years masterfully is boasting about how wonderful he is. What's the point of that? Oh, and yeah, the fight between Yoda and Sidious is the most over-the-top, ridiculous nonsense. It looked bad enough with Sidious's flips against Mace Windu, but now it's even more awkward when he's wearing huge, bulky robes everywhere, and Yoda's just a tiny little goblin jumping around. The comic has the good sense to skip the part where they start tossing those spinning Senate discs at each other, and Yoda just falls down because of force lightning that he apparently forgot how to deflect from the last movie. Yoda slips down somewhere and lands in Senator Organa's car, that he just had sitting there at the ready, I guess. Failed, I have. Well, what's stopping you from going back up there? In the movie, he even says he needs to go into exile for his failure instead of, you know, organizing a resistance, trying to find Force-sensitive children to help train his Jedi for the future, you know, anything else. Nah, just become a weird old hermit because some other old dude zapped you with lightning.
There is logic in what he says.
And back over to the much more interesting fight. As I've said, I much prefer lightsaber fights where we have a more emotional connection to the characters. We don't need one with the villain necessarily, but it helps, and this one is definitely up there. Two best friends now turned into enemies. Really, my problem with it is just how over the top it goes. They're zipping around everywhere, hanging from tall towers, balancing on beams. It's trying to make it seem like the most epic confrontation in the history of ever, but it's not really helped by it intercutting with the Yoda and Sidious fight. Fortunately, the comic changes that by having the Sidious fight over and done with fairly quickly so we can focus on Anakin versus Obi-Wan and cut down to about 3 or 4 pages. Probably could have gone on longer, especially since the movies went on for quite a bit long, probably longer than it needs to be thanks to the interspersing, but here it's a good length. When I first saw this, I was less impressed with the fight because the two had the same lightsaber color, so it didn't seem as visually interesting to me and made it harder to follow who was doing what. As an adult, I actually appreciate it a lot more, especially the comics version, because everything here is so deeply red and yellow and dark, but then there are these two blue sabers that help stand out. Unfortunately, the movie suffers a bit from this, because while it's easier to see the sabers, Anakin and Obi-Wan's own clothes end up blending into everything, which again makes it harder to tell what's happening in the fight, not helped by the screen flashing each time the sabers collide. It's not impossible to follow, but it kinda wears on the eyes a bit. Eventually, Obi-Wan gets to some rocks and Anakin jumps at him. They leave out, "I have the high ground," which kinda sucks because, hey, memorable mimetic lines. But then again, from this shot in the comic, Anakin looks like he has the high ground. Obi-Wan swings and, with one smooth motion, takes out Anakin's legs and remaining arm. The comic also unfortunately underplays Obi-Wan's final lines to him. His expression is distant and blank, and he's not screaming this like he should. It's probably the best moment of Ewan McGregor's time in the role. "You were the chosen one! It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them!" Well, to be fair, Obi-Wan, we never saw the text of this prophecy, so I'm not sure you ever did either. Maybe it actually said, "They will bring balance to the Force by destroying those stinking Jedi and their corrupting light side." I hate you! Yeah, considering he just cut off your remaining limbs and you got set on fire, that's pretty fair. Obi-Wan takes Anakin's lightsaber and leaves just as clone troopers arrive to rescue Anakin and get him into a medical capsule. We cut over to a remote asteroid station where Yoda is convening with, believe it or not, Qui-Gon Jinn. "Failed to stop the Sith Lord I have. Still much to learn there is. With my help, you'll be able to merge with the Force at will. Eternal life. The ability to defy death can be achieved, but only for oneself. A shaman of the Whills discovered the secret." What the hell are the Whills? Something that our creator can't let go of for some reason. "But it will never be accomplished by a Sith Lord." Oh boy, is there a lot of expanded universe stuff and a movie that says otherwise. And as such, "A great Jedi Master you have become, Qui-Gon Jinn. Your apprentice I gratefully become." Yes, it's a good thing I learned how to become a ghost in the 2 minutes after I got stabbed. In all seriousness, I do actually love the idea of Qui-Gon passing on this kind of knowledge. It makes his presence in The Phantom Menace more important, elevating Episode 1 a bit. I wonder why this scene never actually made it into the movie. Was Liam Neeson just not available to record the cameo? Padme's in the medical bay delivering her twin children, and like I said, I have an easier time believing that she was dying from getting thrown into a wall than in the movie, where some medical droid just says she lost the will to live. I was gonna have to dig up a Dr. Cox clip if they use that here, but yeah, she dies saying that she knows they're still good in Anakin. Later, Yoda, Senator Organa, and Obi-Wan discuss what to do with the kids, including how they need to send Padme's body to Naboo and make her appear to still be pregnant. Organa volunteers to adopt Leia. "And what about the boy? To his family on Tatooine he should go." Wait, how do they know about them? After Episode 2, did Anakin have a debriefing session where he said, "I defied orders to go looking for my mom, which I know forming attachments is against the Jedi Code, but I had a bad dream. After discovering I had a stepbrother and stepdad, I went hunting for her kidnappers, and I slaughtered them like animals. And not just the men, but the women and the children too. Can I still be a Jedi?" I mean, I can believe that he told Obi-Wan about meeting them, but it feels like a lost bit of character development. Maybe a scene where he mentions, "I have a stepbrother, but you're my real brother, Obi-Wan," or something along those lines would have been nice. Obi-Wan says he'll watch over the kid, with Yoda expressing that the Force runs strong in the Skywalker line, but only for space Jesus kids, screw you, Shmi. and that they can only hope that someday they can stop Sidious. In your solitude on Tatooine, training I have for you. Wait, Yoda, I need to go back to the Jedi Temple and pick up one of those training droids for younglings. Imagine what I'd do without one. No, he talks about how Qui-Gon Jinn can contact him and teach him the ways of joining the Force. 3PO and R2 were along for this ride. Makes me really wonder if R2 had any opinions about Anakin turning evil and yet was gung-ho about all this. And Organa decides to give them to Captain Antilles, who runs the ship they escaped on. Clean them up and have the protocol droid's memory wiped. Otherwise, he might recognize Owen and Beru at some point, and then they'd realize he wasn't just some random protocol droid. Okay, wiping C-3PO's memory to preserve the secret of the kids being born is fine, but why are you ignoring R2? Do they think that information can't be downloaded from his memory banks? Or do they think no one can understand his beeps? Over on Coruscant, Anakin has of course been placed in the Darth Vader armor to save his life. Lord Vader, can you hear me?
Yes, my master. Where is Padme? Is she all right?
It seems in your anger, you killed her.
Wait, I was dismembered and set on fire and put into a robot suit, but you can't do the same for her? What the hell, man?
And of course, Vader in his anger destroys everything and lets out the epic "No!" As I mentioned in the Sins Past review, I think a moment like this would have been stronger with just a yell and not actually saying "No!" Kudos to the artwork, though, for capturing the moment effectively. This splash page has actually become semi-mimetic on its own. And so our comic ends with a montage of where everybody ends up. Yoda arrives on Dagobah. Grave mistake I may have made with this choice. Vader and Sidious see the Death Star under construction, which apparently takes 20 years to finish. Leia is on Alderaan, and Obi-Wan delivers Luke to Owen and Beru on Tatooine as they observe the setting suns. So, you're not gonna believe this, but in my opinion, this comic is actually pretty damn good. In fact, this is one of those rare cases where the comic is better than the movie. Despite a few goofy facial expressions, I'm especially fond of the art style for this one. A kind of semi-realistic penciling and shading with coloring done over it. The inking being much lighter than the usual strong black lines you'd normally have in a comic. It adapts a lot of the stronger moments of the film effectively while also giving their own spin on scenes. More often than not, an improvement over the original's version of events. It also leaves out a lot of stupider lines from the movie that I was fully planning on making fun of.
Sith Lords are our specialty.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
She has lost the will to live.
As a result, the overall writing is a lot stronger, with deleted scenes and dialogue exchanges making more sense than in the finished product. It's still not perfect, but it's a lot better, and without the clunkier delivery of the lines, it conveys the tone it was going for. The pacing is so much better in the comic, too. When you actually watch, say, the Jedi Council meeting with them, declaring the attack on the Wookiees, it's so slow. There are a few seconds between anyone speaking. You can call it calm Jedi patience or whatever, but it makes for a boring, laid-back experience when you're watching it. Any non-action scenes can sometimes feel like that. Just this prevailing feeling of lethargy, a lack of enthusiasm for the material, no sense of urgency about anything. Even a few of the action scenes are like that. When Anakin and Obi-Wan escape from Grievous on his ship, there's lightsabers flashing and droids getting cut in half, but it takes a minute or two for music to start playing, so the mood isn't exciting or anything. Just another day at the office for the Jedi. The comic keeps things interesting. There may not be an abundance of action scenes, but this is a movie that's all about the characters. As for the film, and the prequel trilogy overall, here are some final thoughts. Most of what I have to say about this movie, I've said throughout. Anakin's turn to the dark side feels rushed, line delivery is still pretty bad, and it chopped out a lot of good stuff. While there are still plenty of problems with the CGI in this movie, I will say that when it comes to, say, the CGI Yoda, it's actually vastly improved over Attack of the Clones. Part of the problem with these early entirely CG characters is that they only had them move when they were talking or had very deliberate motions. Even the mocap stuff with Jar Jar was very janky in his movements. As such, when they stopped talking, they just seemed to suddenly freeze in place for a moment. In this movie, Yoda feels more real, as if he was an actual living thing interacting with them. It's not perfect, but it's much better than last time. The technology had finally started catching up with the ambition of the film. And then there's the thing that people are still commenting on. The whole Jedi bringing about their own downfall. Their arrogance and hubris and all that. The problem comes down to framing. You can list off the individual plot points that occur to support this argument, but the issue is the movie's presentation of those points does not, in my opinion, support the argument. As an analogy, the romance in Attack of the Clones is not framed as creepy and awkward. It's presented in a straightforward manner of star-crossed lovers. It does not actually recognize the thing that we see from the actors' performances, that this is wrong and uncomfortable. As far as the movie is concerned, Anakin's "I don't like sand, but your skin is smooth and nice" isn't something we're supposed to be creeped out by. And thus, by that token, the Jedi are not framed as arrogant, emotionless fools, but wise guardians of the light. A Jedi Master uses his powers to take things for the sake of expedience, and that's considered normal. A Jedi Master will rig gambling to win in his favor, and Jar Jar grins at that. A Jedi Master will steal from someone to get what he wants through attempted mind control when the individual refuses their payment method. A Jedi Padawan and Master torture and interrogate a suspect in the streets, and none of it is ever called out. No one reacts with shock and horror at this. There's no dark music sting to indicate that they're going too far. A Jedi slaughters children in a fit of rage at the death of his mother, and the movie frames it not as him becoming a villain, but a tragic loss of control that he feels insanely guilty over. He's not a villain in that scene, but a remorseful, weeping object of pity and sympathy for the audience. People wondered why Padme was comforting him after he admitted to slaughtering children. That's because the movie wants you to feel sorrow for him about this, and thus she comforts him out of love. The movie frames it as something to identify with. No one's pulling a Todd here.
You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay.
The movies don't have a problem with what the Jedi are doing, and that tells the audience there is nothing wrong with what they are doing. People bring up the Jedi kidnapping children to be indoctrinated into their order as further evidence of them having fallen so far, but unfortunately, I have to sing this song again. That's not in the movie. The movie only says they trained little kids, not that they were taken or anything. There's nothing in the film to suggest that their methods of teaching are wrong either. Hell, people bring up how the Jedi are supposed to be shown as out of touch, focusing too much on combat and politics, or how their emotional detachment makes them bad guys. But the movies don't present it that way. And frankly, it's not exactly a strong counter-argument that the thing they explicitly say would be a bad idea, training Anakin despite being too old, ends with him becoming evil and murdering them all when he rejects their way of thinking. Never does Yoda say, "Our fault this is. Should have understood and helped Anakin's feelings, not told him to ignore them." Obi-Wan never reflects on the rigidity of the code and their ways of thinking that led them to miss all the obvious red flags. It's just, only a Sith deals in absolutes. It's not that this opinion or reading of the films is wrong, that the Jedi aren't partly to blame for their own downfall. It's that the movies are bad and don't present it that way. The closest we get is them talking about them discussing in secret how they should overthrow the Chancellor if he refuses to end the war or give up his power, and Yoda rightfully pointing out, hey, this is kind of a dark line of thought we're heading down. However, saying that an attempted coup would be bad is kind of undermined by the fact that the Chancellor is the Dark Lord of the Sith who has been manipulating everything from the start. But despite all that I've said, all that I've complained about, I can't find it in my heart to hate these movies. There are things about them that I hate, but honestly, it's still Star Wars. I'll rant and rave like any fan, but then Duel of the Fates starts up and I'm suddenly invested. I'll make fun of the goofiest of dialogue and most bizarre performances, but in the end, I'm still gonna enjoy it. Rewatching them, I still see all their problems, and yet there's still something about them that makes me smile, and I suddenly get why so many are still entranced by them even after all these years. And I'm sure that's not gonna change even after another 20 years. And maybe that's the real New Hope. That ultimately we can still talk about these movies, what we hate and love about them, while still coming together to love everything about the franchise overall. Next time, we end Star Wars Prequels Month with another darker film turned comic, and see what Disney's version of a prequel film is with Rogue One.
Reviewing comics, the worst books that you will
lost something.
Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship.
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.